Hello and welcome to the Albion TV interview series. I am your host, the Chosen One, and I am joined today by Bogul. And we have the great honor of getting the opportunity to talk to ourselves today and tell
Ah,
you, the audience, about how we got here, how AOTV came to be what it is today, how we started in Albion Online and went from players to I'll say like the voices of Albion Online. We've been talking about this game for quite a while, and we talk about it every day.
forever, forever, man.
Yeah,
It's
it
been it's
has
been a
been.
while, right?
It's been over 8 years that we've had the privilege of working alongside Sandbox Interactive as their official Twitch hosts for their game Albion Online, and we've been playing the game much longer. Bogul has a forum post that goes back 11 years, and we started playing together about 10 years ago. So it's been a very, very long time that we've been at this, and it started off pretty successfully right from the bat. Bogle, we got to be part of one of the coolest gaming experiences I've ever been a part of, being part of the Alpha and Beta Guild Vendetta.
That was the time. Yeah, I mean, when we met, that the time was still like during very early alphas,
Mhm.
very early beta times of Albion, when we didn't even have a full server that was online 24/7 yet. We had various tests that lasted a month, 3 months. I think 4 or 5 months wasn't even in the cards at the time.
No, the
Um,
first one I did was 2 weeks long,
yeah,
and I didn't even get to play for the whole thing. It was very early on in the days of Albion, and I think we met in, I want to say, the last alpha, the last phase of alpha. We ran into each other when I ran into your zone and begged for a new home after your guild came in and wiped out my guild in a dungeon. And I was like, these guys aren't very good at the game. I need better teammates, and I'm going to go join the best guild in the game at this point. And I was sick of getting run over by them. And, if you can't beat them, Bogle, join
join
them.
them. Yeah. Do you want to hop on the island? By the way, I am actually on the Vendetta Guild Island. That's these days located in Limhurst. There's not much going on here anymore. It's a relic of very ancient times, but I still keep it, and I think there are some flags still. That's on the
I mean,
America server, and um, I the guild pretty much died with the release, right? So we had a
with
very
release,
very
we
successful.
got kicked out. Let's be honest, Bogle. We didn't even make it to release. We got
I
there
mean,
was a coup. We were kicked out of the guild. We weren't allowed to play with the guild on release. They didn't like the way that we ran the guild, and they booted us.
I
It
had
was
the
disrespectful.
I mean I had the opportunity in the end to get the guild back. But no, it was the best guild at the time, and we even made one of the competitions was naming a item after a guild, and that's by the way how the fire staff got its name. The Vendetta's Wrath is from that ancient time, 8 years ago, 9 years I think was the competition. Um, Wait, I want to show that. Infernal Vendetta's Wrath there. That's what it is. But then it quickly folded, and I mean, we had different things in mind during launch, right? That was a wild time where everybody was sort of looking forward to it, but we just had figured out something that we kind of wanted to do at the time, right?
Hmm. Yeah,
Uh,
we were. It was an interesting situation early on. I mean, I was trying to fix the game. I was very interested in Albion as a concept and wanted the game to be the best it could be. I was making cartoons for the game, talking about different ways you could fix the game. I was getting into arguments with the developers on a regular basis, going to all the roundtable situations. But we also had this pretty successful guild that we were running. Um, when that ended, we needed something else to do, and you were like, "Hey, do you want to start like a podcast and talk about all these adventures you have in gaming, and in Albion as well?" And I was pretty down for that.
podcast is these days such an ancient word. I feel like no, but I don't know if people. I guess people still do podcasts, but it was
Yeah, there's
it was one of these things that you kind of started doing at the time, right? It's that was suddenly possible with technology actually catching up and people actually listening to these. I think it was like at the height at the time of that, and then Albion was an up and coming thing, and uh, what's better to do than talk about your favorite thing a few times a week? And honestly, we had met a few times, and I was like, wait, this guy has a voice for radio, and he's kind of funny. So how about we try this?
also
And
a face for radio.
oh, yeah, I didn't see that. but it kind of worked out, man. Like,
Yeah, absolutely. It did. But, I think one of the important things I wanted to say is that when we were trying to get the podcast together, I was like, Bogle, I don't want to do the podcast and just go on and talk about it. I want to figure out what we need to do to be a successful podcast.
mm,
When I started playing Albion, it wasn't with the intention of playing the game. It was literally I was looking for a game that I could make an impact in and start like a new phase of my career in. Um,
a career in
a
the
couple
sense
of
of did you want to get into game design or what?
back into games. Not necessarily game design, but back into games. And at the time, I was looking at trying to figure out ways of turning player interactions, player events into the lore of the game, turning the player like stories into the actual stories that people followed inside and outside the game. And I looked for a lot of games that could possibly do that. Um, Interesting. I'll tell a quick side note here, and this is a story for a lot of video game nerds. Back in 20, I want to say it was like 2013, 2014. I was at a burlesque show in Boston at PAX, and I ran into Tim Schafer. Apparently, some guy was eh, trying to get drinks put on Tim Schafer's tab, right? The guy, two people in front of us in line for the bar, said, "Hey, I'm Tim Schefter, and you can put it on my tab." And my buddy, who recognized that this man was not Tim Schafer, um, explained to him that he knows Tim Schafer and you, sir, are no Tim Schafer. I'll never forget that line. It was pretty good. Security grabbed the guy, pulled him out, and we went to go back to our seats. And my buddy went over to Tim and he was like, "Hey, this guy over there, that one, was trying to put drinks on your tab, and we stopped him." So Tim was like, "Hey, that was really cool of you. Why don't you guys stick around after the show and we'll chat?" And we did. And we stuck around after the show, and we must have made quite the impression because the next year he invited us to hang out again. He actually approached us and said, "Hey, I remember you guys. Do you want to hang out with us? We're actually having a party after the show this year." Because the first show was just a burlesque show about video games. It was put on by this group called D20 Burlesque that did nerd-based dancing. Like Dungeons and Dragons,
I'm a,
Cthulhu,
I'm a
goofy shit.
ask nerd
Yeah,
based dancing. Is that like
yeah,
half naked ladies doing very awkward
yes.
dances?
Awkward-ish, yeah. I mean, like, like a barbarian lady, taking off her clothes, but not quite showing anything because it's burlesque, not stripping. It's more for the humor than, the nudity.
Hmm.
And there were a lot of video game things there. The second year they did the games of Tim Schafer. So this whole thing was about, like the cave and Grim Fandango and like Aquanauts, all these different things that were like his kind of things, like like all his different games
Hmm.
that he had done. People did like caricatures of and did stuff. So we hung out afterwards, and we got into a deep conversation about narrative design in gaming, and we were both pretty intoxicated, and we're getting pretty into it, as to like different ways you could turn player interactions into story. And he kind of like grabs me by my shirt and he starts shaking me and going, "Who do you work for?" And he wouldn't stop. He kept doing it as like his driver was pulling him into the limo, and I thought I was going into the limo too at one point, and the driver was like, "No, no, no, not you." And as I kind of like stood there and I was just like, okay, that was an experience. I kind of got what he was saying. It wasn't like, who do you work for in the industry? It's like, why don't you work in the industry? Like, why, if you are somebody who knows so much about game design and you are like the kind of person who'll be at PAX 5 years in a row and you recognize other game developers and you are into this, why don't you get involved?
Mhm.
And so, yeah, okay, that does sound a little weird, Witchy Sophia. Now that you put it that way, you kind of just ruined my vibe here. I gotta realign here. You hit me on that one. Oh, okay. Uh, but yeah, I realized I had to get into gaming, and so I started looking for different games that I could, and I went through about 3 or 4 games before I found Albion Online, and Albion was a truly unique game that allowed for what I wanted to do, which was taking players' stories and turning them into the lore of the game. When I joined, they had already had a book written that was about the players from Alpha 1 and what they did in the world and how that impacted like the story of Albion's lore. I thought that was awesome. And I was really interested in seeing that progress. And while they didn't write the book, we were able to take a podcast, Bogul, that kind of started telling those stories about different players. And that's what we did with Albion Informer is we tried to tell the stories of players and make that the thing that everybody followed rather than the story of like who the keepers are and who are the Morgana characters. Why are they, all dressed in black? I don't care about that. I wanted to know about what was going on with the Iron Bank and who they were losing all their money to. That's what I was interested in.
I still remember some of the characters from the actual book. Like I remember the twins. I remember Rook. Like there's these like the twins were the other duo that was leading Vendetta. For example, Rook was one of the officers at the time, and that was after we had been running the guild and winning the alphas basically.
Mhm.
So my story is a little bit different. I just basically found Albion on the mini site they had set up at the time, and I was like, oh wait, this is a cool game. I kind of played Eve before, so I was like, oh
Mhm.
wait, this is Eve, but medieval and kind of cool.
With spells and swords and
Yeah,
armor
yeah,
instead
yeah.
of spaceships
But
and laser beams.
I played Eve for like the economy stuff, and then with Vendetta, I got a glimpse of power, and then running and being a successful guild master is kind of amazing. Like if you're the best guild in the game, all the best people want to join you, and then having an
Mhm.
amazing group of people to play with that really put in time and effort and really try to make things work. Like seeing people nerd out like crazy is a really amazing experience. And then I kind of got hooked on that, and then I was like, oh wait, this is a good game. How about I continue doing that? And then it was winning all the time while putting in 10 14-hour days. I was in university at the time. I had some time. um in the end led to some cool experiences, and then on launch stuff had sort of turned around after doing this for I think a year and a half or so, right? um
Yeah, I mean, like you were talking about the nerding out. I remember the beta 2 preparations that we had. We had a 27-page document for beta 2 on how to get a head start on the other groups in beta 2. Like we were nerding out hard. We were there even when there was nothing left to do in beta. There were groups of us who were still there 12 hours a day trying to learn everything we could for launch. And it was an incredible amount of push. And yeah, we didn't quite make it to Vendetta with launch, but we joined up with a very successful group at launch. We joined up with Money Guild because of our experience with Albion Informer made us really well known. Not only were we, known for Vendetta and, being part of the officership that ran Vendetta and made it work behind the scenes. We were not the PvPers for Vendetta. I
Yeah,
I did do a couple
important
of 5v5
clarification.
matches for them. I still remember winning my first one.
Uh,
I won my first 5v5 match against what was it, Nilfgaard? That
uh,
was the other big group that we had that we were facing every day,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and it was on my birthday. I won the very first one I did, and they were so mad at me for winning the first one. They started sending the A team every time I would show up, and they would just pick on me and they would pull me out and just kill me over and over and over again. It was the whirlwind meta where they would use the ironclad and separate you and then pull you out and just absolutely delete you. It was rough. It was a rough 2 months of getting my ass kicked in 5v5s at least once a day.
I have to be honest, like right after launch, I think I had a pretty busy time alive. So I think I was finishing up university at the time. So like a year or so after launch, or maybe even the first 6 months right after launch. I'm a bit hazy, honestly, on the timeline. Um, but maybe it's interesting
That
to
was where
sort of
we
figure out what we did around launch and what happened to Albion Informer and how we
That was
transitioned
the
to
death of
AOTV.
Albion Informer, kind of, and then the beginning of AOTV with me. So AOTV existed in beta. It was run by the community manager Evoke, and there was Kostian, um, um, Gusky, Lupac, and Vetus, and Metis Overboard. Um, they all kind of worked on different shows. There was only really like two shows though. It was one was like a patch note show and the other one was the Hellgate show because there wasn't a lot of different PvP at the time. So they were really covering Hellgates quite a lot. But when we were doing Albion Informer, we had the goal of actually selling basically Albion Informer and the concept of Albion Informer to Sandbox Interactive. My goal was to work with Sandbox Interactive on telling the stories. It wasn't to make a show that was funded by viewers and made me kind of be a viewer oriented streamer. I didn't want to have that kind of relationship with the viewers. I wanted to be more honest. I wanted to be able to say what I thought, both about the game and about the actions of players. And when you're being funded by players, that becomes a lot harder to do. Uh, like the idea of bias comes in real quick. So my goal was to sell it to Sandbox Interactive, and it looked like for a while leading up to launch, that's kind of what was going to happen. I mean, we were in negotiations prior to launch, and we had been asked to be available for the week of launch. I believe they asked both Bogul and I to be available.
Mm-hmm.
And leading up to that, there were several attempts at negotiations. Now, I don't want to get too into this because it doesn't make anybody look great. The week leading up to launch and how this happened, but we'll say this: I had 2 meetings scheduled with Sandbox Interactive, and I went to both meetings.
Oh, I mean that
And
was now what, 8 years ago?
I did not end up working launch for Sandbox Interactive.
Mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm.
we'll just leave it at that. And a couple of months later, after I continued to do a different version of Albion Informer, because once that happens, it really did change like a lot of our perspective. We had to start becoming a group that would start to target what the consumer wanted, being a consumer driven uh, podcast, and that really changed the tone a lot of what we were doing. We brought Derek on, and that interview became infamous, we'll say, for the content that was covered in that. And shortly after that, I started working with Sandbox Interactive. Um, they were like, you know what? Let's get through this. Let's figure out
I
whatever
mean,
happened in the past, make that move past, and we'll start doing something different. And that's when we started doing the very first version of the War Report, which was very like our daily show. It was looking at what was going on in the world, looking at patch notes, and telling people what was kind of going on with like the wars of Albion, right? It was like covering the community aspect of that. And I did that with Vetus and originally Metis Overboard and Gusky. Now, Gusky left pretty early on, and I was joined by Vetus for most of it. But as soon as I could, I think I tried to bring you in because we were having consistency issues that I felt I needed somebody I worked with in the past and would put in the effort to make a show. Um, the to make these early shows, we kind of took on this idea of that we weren't going to just go live with the information that we had. We were going to do research, and we were going to put in effort to make sure we had notes going in, we knew what we were talking about, and we had a lot of information at our fingertips, so we'd be very well
The
informed. Hence,
world was different
Albion
at the time
Informer.
too, right? Because it like you
We
needed that research because the world was in a sort of different state almost, and stuff happened in a different pattern and pace with like 5 versus 5 for territory control and guilds handling stuff slightly different and like various game mechanics being different too.
So much was different, and it really led to a world. So we'll talk about part of it was 5v5. That led to very few people having an excised role in the story of Albion Online, right? Like you could look at these 5 people and say they controlled this continent, and you could look at these 5 people and they controlled this continent, and you could look at these 5 people and they controlled half of this continent. And they fought those 5 people every day. And so you had like 35, 40 people that you could follow, and then you could even boil those down into like 5 guild leaders that you really followed, right? And it made for telling stories very, very easy. You could say, this guy is the leader of this continent, and this guy is the leader of this continent, and they're going to fight. And they've got these 2 groups that are fighting. And covering it was pretty easy because the day beforehand, you would know there was going to be a 5v5 match. You know what time it was going to be, and you know all the people involved. And it was going to happen more often than not, especially early on, because territories were incredibly valuable in a way that they are not today. When we covered the Mercia fights, you were literally covering the 4 zones in the game that had T8 resources at all. That was the only place you could get them. If you wanted T8 resources, you had to own one of these zones. And only one group had them. That was the Oops Alliance, and that was led by Money Guild. And Money Guild had these 5 champions, including Derek, that absolutely just dominated everybody else. And that lasted for quite a while. It made for really good stories, Bogul. And it made for covering the war report really easy. And that's when we brought in Lupac. Lupac and I started covering the invasion days first together, and then we started covering 5v5s. And Tazik and I would record the 5v5s, and then Tazik and I, or Lupac and I, would cast the 5v5 match. And that was the first like expansion of the team to go from like myself and Gusky to bring in more people. And Lupac was already here, so it was very easy. And then we wanted to do, because that was so successful, we wanted to do like more like Albion Informer stuff, more news, more regular interaction with the community. So we brought back the kind of the show that we did with Albion Informer, which became the daily show that we still continue with today. And that's, bringing that news, the talking about the patch notes, talking about what's happening on Reddit, talking about events that are between different guilds and stuff. And that lasted for quite a while.
So surprisingly, like sometimes people ask, yo, do you even have enough content to do this? And over the last 6.5 years that we've been doing this now, surprisingly enough, every single day we had content. Like the game has so much stuff going on all the time everywhere that there is always something to talk about. It's like if you think about that a little bit longer, then it's kind of crazy. Finding who's fighting with whom, or who has a beef with what, or somebody posted a new clip, or somebody has a very strong season, or there's a new fallout between this and this group. It's kind of amazing what humans who play for pixels actually generate in terms of interesting stories. So we always had the luxury of a pretty alive world, even though with a slightly smaller number of players than we have today. Like I almost would say like at least 10 times lower, maybe more.
I
I,
would
I
well,
don't
so
really know,
when we
but
started, I mean, we can talk about the hardest part of Albion Online was when we first started
mm,
doing this, like in 2017, right after launch, in the months of like now, like October, Albion was at a really low point. We had launch, which was really rough because the servers were held ransom by a DDoS,
like
and
2 weeks.
many
Huh?
people couldn't connect for over 2 weeks.
Yeah.
It was really rough. And we lost a lot of players during that time. That's the most important time for an MMO. And it really killed a lot of the casual players in Albion. A lot of them just thought this was the experience they were going to have, and they hadn't had the experience in beta or alpha to know that the game really functions much better than that, and they just kind of like left. It was really sad to see, and the game got down to a really low number. I want to say like 37,000 active players per month, and that's just my guess. That's not official. Please don't use that as an official number. It just felt
It's
really
oddly
low.
specific, though.
Yeah, it is. We were doing a lot of math, Bogle.
Oh,
Uh,
right.
like,
I
we
remember
were
looking at
Bogle and I were
leaderboards
doing
and
deep dives into things that we don't do anymore in
yeah,
order to find out
yeah. I
information
remember
about
like
these
really
guys.
early Albion Informer stuff where we like one of the episodes we basically picked a fight with a CEO and it kind of went awkward. Um, but that that sort of still shows the point that there's plenty of stories and interesting stuff going on. And then, as you said, with launch and all the troubles around launch, it luckily picked up after that, right? It got better, and enough people were still around, and it kind of, even though on a kind of low average number, still had stuff going on, and that was good enough for us at the time. There was plenty of content to do stuff around.
There was so much. Like early on, it felt like the stories were hugely impactful because it didn't change as much as it does today. When we only had the three starting continents in the Outlands and the Royal continent as the fourth, you could really follow the changes on the map day to day and have a story that continued. So it didn't change very often. You had your home plots, and I think you had six of them on Mercia, and they changed so rarely. Like the guilds that lived on this continent, that it was a game-wide event when somebody would attack their home plot. So it'd be like the equivalent of somebody attacking a hideout today, which happens 40 times a day. Nobody really pays attention. This brought every single person out from all of Albion and started hanging out and watching what would happen. And they wanted to be informed. And so what we would do is like, Tazak or I or one of the participants would record the match as it happened live. And then the next day, we would cast the match and everybody would watch. And this is how people kept up with the news of Albion. This is the only way the average person or even like the somewhat hardcore person could follow the story of the game, because if you look at the map, you kind of see the colors change. This guild now owns this territory. But if you watch the show, you'd know which five guys beat which five guys at what time, who the guild leader is, and why those two groups are fighting, what zone they're fighting in, and what the resources are available in that zone, how long they've been fighting for that zone, and the different people that made it available to be fought over with the earlier declaration. Declarations were done by the very earliest ZVZing in Albion. You'd have to go to a war camp and fight NPCs, kind of like you do on Invasion Day. You go fight in some NPCs, you take control of a node, and then the next day you'd be able to attack the territory. And those were the first ZVZs. And with the update of Queen, um, the servers were changed in such a way that it allowed us to make the main part of the game, the main thing for territory control, ZVZ based instead of 5v5 based. And while that may have changed our ability to tell the story for individuals, it made guilds and alliances become the main character for Albion Online, where individuals had been the character before. So where 5 people were talked about incessantly before. Now a tag that represents 300 is talked about, or an alliance tag that represents 5,000 is talked about. And so it was much more, I don't know, how do you, what do you say for that, Bogo? And it's just more people were involved in the story.
I mean, maybe inclusive is a word there.
Inclusive but less personalized.
Yeah, yeah. I again, this is I think a time where I was still a little bit busy with stuff finishing uni, so this is where I'm a bit hazy about. But I think you're right. I think you're pretty accurate there. And then slightly or shortly after, I remember that I wanted to do some wiki stuff because I was like, "Hey, community manager lady, you don't have a wiki." And then
That's true. That was how you first
yeah,
got,
yeah, yeah.
so we
Uh,
couldn't even afford to have, like, Bogle as a show host yet. The first thing Bogle did was start working on the wiki, and that's how you, like,
that's how I
I
got my
always
foot
talk
in the
about it how
door.
we
Yeah.
snuck into the industry. We didn't get in, like, the way everybody else is. We kind of, like, snuck our way in, or in my case, I think I kinda, like, kicked open the door. I was like, "Just let me in. You don't
Yeah.
have an option here. I'm coming in whether you like it or not."
Yeah.
Um,
No, but I
it was it
but
was it was interesting.
yeah, but what I did was I basically said to the community team, "Hey, you guys don't have a wiki. How about I fix that?" And then we had to do like 3 months of transition from like a really bad old style wiki to another one, and then try to make publicize that, and then that didn't quite work, and then we had to redo. Like I was busy for like 3 months trying to figure out how to wiki, like maybe 4 or 5. And some of that stuff is still actually active, and that gets too little of a plug. There is a whole group on the official Discord, the Wiki Guardians, that deal with the Albion Online Wiki. It's it over the years it has seen ups and downs, and for most of the time the wiki has been not as up to date as it could be, but that's partially because if you write stuff down and knowledge about Albion especially, then you lose your edge, right?
You do. You
So
lose your
so
competitive edge. It's not fair.
so there's a whole incentive problem of sharing information in Albion, which makes it kind of hard for people to just contribute to a wiki. Um, but that's how I got sort of started, and then I think I like 6 months in, some opportunity presented itself where it's like, hey, how about we do a daily show? And then that sort of started up. Do you remember when that was? Like
The
first daily
Daily Show?
shows? Yeah.
I wanna say they're 2019, 2018. 2019,
Mhm.
because we were there by 2020, like, when COVID hit, we were there because I remember when we were starting, it was 2019, end of 2019, and you were back in China, and I was saying, "Bogle, do you really wanna go back to China? There's a thing breaking out there," and you're like, "It's not gonna be a problem."
I I mean before that we had this
And then
funny
Bogle brought it back to Europe,
no,
and
it wasn't me, bro. No, don't.
no, no, no.
I,
But so there's one thing I do want to bring up here, because we
yeah.
just talked about how you were in China, and when we actually first started doing our podcast, you were in China. You were
Hmm.
you were going to university in China,
Hmm.
and you were in Beijing, and I'm on the East Coast, U.S. We had a 12-hour difference, and in order to do that prep work that we talked about, like, we prepped for 4 months before we did our first podcast. We wanted to know what we were doing, and I would get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to meet Bogle at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, his time, and he would get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to meet me at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, my time.
Hmm.
And we did this for months, and even the earliest parts of recording. And I just remember how dedicated we were to this idea of, and this is going to sound kind of, highfalutin, but saving Albion Online.
I
You know,
mean,
there
saving
there was
Albion Online
literally a
was kind of your
moment.
thing, though. Like
Yeah, I
I
mean, there
was
was
trying to
literally
have
a
a good
moment where
show.
Bogle and I were hanging out, and I had some wild idea about fives, right? And I was like, "Okay, this is gonna take me 20 hours to do this." I'm
I
You know
just wanted
what?
to report on
This is my
stuff
new
and
job.
I remember
I
making like a whole homepage. We collected like I had a whole spreadsheet of fights that happened. So remember the kill board had overviews about who won fights and stuff. So we would go through the basically like the kill boards today, where you can see
mm,
who won fights, like how many kills and deaths and so on. That similar thing, but for fives, and that
yep.
way we could kind of trace who was winning, who was losing.
Yeah.
So we would go through that, and basically every day, or you
Oh, for
know,
the Crystal League, yeah.
yeah,
Once the Crystal League started, yeah.
not even Crystal League, like before that for territory still, like trace who was winning the fights and who was in the fights, and then sort of give a report on that too. So we really tried to sort of be up to date, and I think initially we had like a show or two a week. During launch, we had I think I still have that somewhere. We had like 14 days straight of daily shows. That was awkward. And then
Mhm.
by the time, a year and a half later, with the actual AOTV schedule sort of taking place, I think we started with one or two shows a week and then try to expand over time, right? And then
Yeah.
today we are at 4 days a week, 8 hours a day or something, plus
6
minus
hours.
6 hours.
6
Yeah.
hours. Yeah. But when we started, yeah, like, when we got to our peak of days, we were doing 5 and 6 days a week, but we weren't doing a lot of shows during the day. It was like 1 or 2 shows. But now we've kind of moved so that we are on the air longer for fewer days, but we can give you more of the content for all the different servers and all the different things that you guys do. And we're still trying to evolve on that. There are some ideas that I have that I really hope to bring towards, or bring to fruition in the next year. Over the last year, we've really worked on making our YouTube content better, created even a TikTok. You guys can watch us on TikTok with our shorts now. We're trying to expand our reach to get just the idea of what Albion does is different and show that to other people, because we still tell stories and present Albion in a way that other MMOs don't really get to do. They don't have this kind of content on from the official channel that covers all the player activities. And that's what we do. We're not here to do this for the studio. We get to see things from the studio's perspective, which makes us a little bit, um, I don't want to say like kinder to the studio, but more informed, so we don't necessarily always jump to conclusions. Sometimes we do, but we're more informed, so we have a better understanding of why things happen when we don't like them, so we can explain that to you guys. Because first and foremost, we're still players, and we still come from a player perspective, and we are privileged enough with who we work with that they let us say what we feel and what we want. Like, I didn't have to really sugarcoat too much of this, to tell you guys the story of Albion TV, because I'm not worried about it, because they let us tell the truth, which is really, really cool from a game company like that lets you be honest about the content that you're experiencing, the players that you're running into, and how you feel about the game. And it creates a very different interaction than what you get with most games.
Mm.
You can come here and be part of the real community of the people who play the game, not like the people who are glazing the studio.
Yeah, I mean, streams as a thing have, some games do like big announced streams, like once a quarter or something, right? And having a Albion TV that is here most days of the week is pretty different in terms of what you can do and how you can show things. And yeah, you're right. That is pretty special, overall. And for some miraculous reasons, we still have content like almost every show. No,
Every day.
every show, yeah.
Every day. Yeah, like, there's news. Like, we did get to this one point. I do remember a downtime right before Queen. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Queen was the biggest update Albion has ever had. It was the one that introduced all the new continents. It's the one that took us from 5v5 gameplay for territory control to ZVZs. It redid the way the networking was done. It changed all the cities. It changed Carlian completely. The road up to that took a long long time. We were hyping that for 6 months with not a lot of new news because we had everything that was coming out 6 months ahead of time. They just had to build it. We knew what they were gonna do. They just had to build it. And it was a very long downtime, for what we were doing because a lot of the stuff we were covering no longer mattered in the same way because we knew a new world was coming. A lot of the old people were starting to wind down as the new world was coming. We did get a couple of really cool moments. We got that the Famiglia home plot defense for 13 weeks. These guys defended their home plot every day, and we got to cover that. But a lot of the game kind of like slowed down.
Yeah, I want to encourage everybody who hasn't done that yet. On the official homepage, there is the game update section. And in this game update section, you can actually like go through the whole like overview pages that exist. And they go back far. Like they go like K
Covered all those, man.
2017 is one of the first ones, I think. Seasonal GVG content, battle mounts, invasions, or
Hold for
Lancelot
a second,
in
Bogle. I want you
2018
to
introducing
notice how
fishing.
all the old updates,
Yeah.
like all the old updates, Bogle, are like alphabetical. I want to show people that who are kind of like newer. All the old updates were named alphabetically, so they each like had like there was the A, the
K
B, the C,
L
the
M
D. You
N
know, like
O P
and they
Q
worked all the way up until they
R
after Queen, and they're like, oh God,
R C
we're
what
done.
L I. All right, broken. All right. No, but
No, it goes QR, and then with call to arms is when they changed it. So
yeah.
call to arms is when they gave up. Like, it was just like, "Okay, we've run out of this. We've gotta actually" like, they couldn't come up with something for S probably to really talk about. That's the first faction update. Call to arms.
Rise of
March
Avalon.
17th, 2021. Yeah.
No, Rise of Avalon actually added the roads.
No, no, call to arms, Bogle.
Oh.
Call to arms. Call to arms is
Oh,
the
no,
faction
that's
update.
one later. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so that
Wait, so we
very cool.
had the introduction of faction warfare happened 2021 in
Mhm.
March, and now we're 2025 with the rework. Wow.
Bogle, do you have any stories from your time in Albion TV that stick out to you? Like, what is some of the biggest things that stick out to you in our time here that really like will be one of
Mm,
those memories that you always take with you?
I mean, there was a long time where we didn't know what this was going to be. Um, in a sense where for a long time I had to figure out if I want to do this full time and if I can do that full time. And that took a good 3 years or something to figure out really. And we sort of did it on the side, and these days it's kind of working out. Um, but that was one of the memories in terms of making Albion TV work, which is sticking to it and finding a way to keep doing it. That was pretty tough at times. And then overall, I think getting really lucky with picking the right game that sort of got successful. Albion turns out is a pretty cool game and stayed to be a pretty cool game. I mean, I could say, when I picked it in the very beginning, I knew this concept was going to work, right? Haha. But there's plenty of things that actually happened that carried us partially, like Albion being successful for 8+ years, and as it looks like it's gonna be another 8+ years. uh I would say, looking back, was pretty lucky. um
Yeah, some of it was luck for sure. I mean, I will say I looked at so many games because what I wanted to do was, and it's my tag now, and it's what I tell people I do for a living, is I wanted to turn players into heroes and heroes into legends. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted it to be a situation where you talked about a player in your game and what they did 10 years after you stopped playing the game. I wanted you to have like the memories of a game that impacted you far beyond the game because it was something that felt different and was above and beyond just the death of pixels on your screen, right? And there were so many games that came out right around the same time as Albion, and there were many out at the same time, and none of them let you do that. Even Eve doesn't really allow for that in the same way that Albion does, or did. I will say it's a little different now, and now it's probably even more like Eve, where it's kind of hard to isolate a single individual. But Albion really gave us this ability to tell the story of the individual, and I think that is an underrated reason for Albion's success. I think its ability to create a hero out of a player and turn a player into a legend allowed Albion to get through the days when it only had like 40,000 active users, 50,000 active users. And it was those legends that brought Albion to a point where it could have 400,000 active users. And it's on the backs of those stories. It's on this idea that players can become bigger than just another player that allows for Albion to continue to grow in a way that other MMOs of a similar style don't or haven't. Um, there's a lot, not a lot, but there's a few that allow you to have large scale battles. There's a few that allow you to have full loop PvP. There's a few that allow you to have small scale PvP that feels meaningful. But none do it in a way that allows everybody, no matter what you do in the game, to feel like somebody important in your part of that game, and in most cases, known in many parts of the game. Like the shot callers in this game are known throughout all areas of this game. Like they're very well known in this game. The peak guild leaders of this game, the Derricks, the Syndics, the King Mojos, these guys, people know them and they remember them long after the time that they're gone. Like other than Derek, those guys aren't here anymore, but their names are still discussed, not just here on AOTV, but on Discords and guild rooms and forum posts. People are still saying free King Mojo. You know, people
Yeah,
are still saying tax silver bags. It's
and the crazy thing is that a lot of these stories exist in a certain universe that uh, is even hard for us to all like show or even all know. Like some of these stories exist in this social group that get told and perpetuated over time that may not even reach the big stage, so to say, but still that build on this like social backdrop of Albion, where that in the end is such an important thing to the game. Like we always say, the game really opens up as soon as you actually play with and against other people. Um, and then the social stories and fabric that evolve from that are, uh, yeah, as you said, something that really hold this together, and it's part of the success of it. And I mean, it's an MMO, right? It's supposed to be like that, but pulling that off actually is pretty hard. And then with thinking about other games where you can sort of instance queue into stuff and then it's kind of non-personal is a choice, I think. And then you were talking about big memories.
Mhm.
One of the biggest other memories I had is when they introduced 3 servers
Yeah.
or another server, and then I still don't like it. I understand it. I've sort of healed over the thought, but that makes some of it a bit harder, like telling the stories and
It is so
and
much harder to tell
following
the stories. I do
following the
war
same
reports on just
chaos
2
3 times.
servers. Yeah, I just do 2 servers right now, like the Asia and Europe, right? And I play on Americas. It's so hard to keep the guilds and alliances straight on 2 different servers. There are these 2 players that have very, very different names, and for some reason I get them confused and always think they're the other person, and they're on 2 different servers. It's it's kind of much harder with multiple servers. it did feel like we lost something with multiple servers, storytelling wise. But I know what we gained as far as players and their ability to play the game, and for people to really have the game they wanted to play. And that was really what pushed me over. It was like, is it worth having one server where some people just can't play Albion so that you can keep your feeling of telling good stories? Or is it worth it to have fewer stories that are meaningful but allow more people to play? And I kind of went in that direction, but I do hope that we can continue to find ways to bring the stories of individuals to people. We try to do that with the spotlights, with not servers, with streamers
Girls too.
coming from all the different servers, and it's hard. We don't do generally the GMs anymore. We don't do the shot callers anymore, and that has less to do with having multiple servers than the experiences we had uh, doing interviews with
uh,
different people.
I mean,
Um,
dude, I,
we could talk about some of that. Like, we have a few minutes. Do you want to talk about some of the horror stories of Albion TV?
I mean, we used to do interview series for a while, and I still think it's one of the best things we should be doing. And I'm really happy that we have the Friday night slot where we get to talk to at least streamers now. And I personally still want to expand that to Guilty Gears, honestly.
Mhm.
But I do remember one or two interviews where we already set up the situation such that it wasn't live. We were going to record it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you can't have everybody live on Twitch, right? That's a whole
Nope.
problem by
We
itself.
we made a rule that we did one interview live early on with somebody, and we learned from that experience that we should probably never do another live interview again.
Yeah, and then in one of the recordings, I think the guy came up and basically was on something and kept insulting you, and it was kind of
Yeah. So we had Gluttony and
Gluttony from Arch. Yeah.
and Archer's not. So Jason EQMS thought it was, and well, not Jason, it was the other guy. It started with a V.
With a V. I wasn't a big Arch guy at the
Oh
time.
God, why can't I think of the guy? Uh, there was a guy, and he was like, "You have to interview Gluttony SDS," and he's gonna be so mad when he hears this, because he's gonna hear it and he's gonna be like, "You fucking forgot my name." I'll be like, "Yeah, I'm sorry. I remember your real name." But like, it's Voltel. That's the one. Thank you. You get a cookie for that one. Sorry, Voltel. I just having a brain fart there, man. But he insisted that I interview Gluttony because he had like 40,000 people playing in Arch, and they thought that there would be nothing more interesting than having Archers on as well. And we had done 2 interviews with Gluttony already. So like,
maybe we should explain what Archer's Non is and was at the time, because I don't think a lot of people.
I will. I was good. Yeah. So Gluttony was like, "Hey, I want to bring Archer's Non on," and Archer's Non is the symbolic figure of Arch that they basically pray to. Like, he is their symbolic video game god. Interesting fellow. Has a number of personality quirks, and we'll leave it at that. And he called me a lady's name the entire interview, and was talking about like some very sexualized activities with me. At least, that's the way it tracked during the interview, because he was just talking about this lady. Like, it was very bizarre. But it is the only interview that we threw out and just didn't do. I was halfway through editing it, like 2 hours into editing it, trying to figure out a way to make it like reasonable. And I was like, nope, just can't do it. Just can't make this thing work.
Yeah,
I couldn't make it work. And I had done interviews with all the most weird, bizarre members of the Albion community in the past, and I just could not get it done because, like, my rule was that, I didn't want to change anything you said. I would edit it, and you could tell that it was edited, but I wanted to get your thoughts out, right? And if it had to be edited, it had to be edited, but it wouldn't change what you were saying. And there was no way I could do that without drastically changing it. And I can't, like, I don't have a lot of, journalistic integrity, but I got some, right? And I couldn't do that. And it was bizarre. It was weird.
How many interviews
The
did we
most
do overall
unusual
at the time?
situation I've been in. Yeah.
I think we did like 120, 30 plus interviews.
Yeah,
time?
we did a lot. Yeah,
Yeah.
we had well over 100 when we stopped. We did so we did a number of them with people who no longer allowed to play the game. And this was a theme that kept coming up, is that we'd do these interviews with people and then we'd find that they were no longer allowed to play the game, because for a long time, we would interview GMs and people who were powerful shot callers in the game.
Rich
And
players.
we'll just leave it at that. And one of these players, it was like, I want to say it was the third time we were interviewing him. He explained that he was on the run from the law. Like, he was literally like out of his country and running from the police officers and trying to avoid like
Capture.
apprehension by his government's authorities.
What was the whole thing about him stealing phones, though?
It was definitely about phones. It was phones, and we're just gonna leave it at that. I don't want to give anybody's name out there, but yeah, apparently he got in trouble for some phone situation. That was wild.
I still think it's hilarious to do that, and I still want to do that shows. I want to find a way to bring that back. We just can't do it live, and we need because I think in the last 3-4 years since we sort of stopped doing interviews, we have had many personalities grow up in Albion, like literally.
True.
But also
absolutely grow up in Albion, yeah.
Come to power in a way that must have a lot of very, very important historical stories that
and we're not covering them. Yeah, we're not telling them. Yeah. I mean, well, part of that is because there was this one time where we were telling this story about this guy who had come up in Albion and gained a lot of power and was now running multiple guilds. And he explained to us that he didn't own a bunch of restaurants. He owned a bunch of brothels.
Yeah, that was awkward. Yeah,
that was. How do you reply to that in the middle of an interview?
Yeah. I was like,
I don't know how to do that.
I mean, shout out to the guy who called his racehorse after his guild. Like he bought
good old Articulo Mortis.
Yeah, the guy bought a racehorse and called it Articulo Mortis because Articulo Mortis was a very popular Turkish guild, I think, right at the time. And they were doing very well in Albion, and the guy had a lot of fun. But later on, he had to get back to his real life and his business. And
I catch up with that guy occasionally. Nice. He bought another horse for an Albion Online player.
Like a real one, not just a skin.
Nope, just a real horse for an Albion Online player. I don't know if that counts as RMT. But yeah, an Albion Online player has a horse that he got from another Albion Online player who had a couple of horses, one of which he named after his guild. And I wish we could show that video of it, because we actually have a video of his horse winning a race, and we've shown that in the past. Yeah, an RHT, real horse transaction.
And there are a few of these, right? There's a bunch of lore in Albion, like e-dating is one of these, kisses is one of these. God. There's some spamming the Q button, and then people showing up half naked on Twitch. That wasn't great. And then like Lupac's channel getting spammed with uncool images, and
like, we call them big black daggers.
Yeah, that stuff. There's
BDDs.
There's a lot of stuff that has been going on, and it's it's always fun to think back. But every guild and every, especially long-standing guilds, have a lot of these stories, and it would be cool to figure out a way to do that. And then it's just about finding a platform, finding the time, organizing, editing, and then making sure these guys actually stay around, because we have told many stories about players and guilds that aren't around anymore, right? And then
Yeah.
most of them sort of reform, and that's kind of a popular thing recently, where you have your guild or your alliance rename every other season, and then people moving around. But still, some of these stories persist, and if you look at the guild season, we are about to hit season 30.
Yeah.
And they used to be 3
Dude, oh my
months, right?
God, we've been doing this so long. It's so cool. I want to get I want somebody to give me a fire staff when I've been here for 10 years. I want them to send me my 10th anniversary fire staff. I want it to be a full-on Vendetta's Wrath replica. I think I've earned it. Other places give you shields and swords. I want my own staff back. But like there's some really cool things that I'd like to do, and one of the things I really appreciate about our new community management team. There's First of all, there's a team. Thank you guys. You guys are awesome. If you guys ever listen to this, I hope that you aren't too offended by anything you've heard so far. These are the real stories of Albion Online. Dun dun dun. But no, we have a whole team right now, and it's really cool.
Oh, it's
And one
grown
of the
so
things that
much. Yeah.
happens with the team is that we have people to do some of the stuff that I used to have to do, and that you used to have to do. We have somebody who now secures us interviews, right? Like with members of the streaming community. If SBI wants to take responsibility for choosing the interview partners that we have, so that I don't get in trouble for it and I can't be held responsible, then I'm more open to, I was going to say, we'll go with more open to it. And we now have Minsu, who does all of our editing. Here, shout out to Minsu here in chat. Fantastic 5v5 player in his own right, does all of our shorts and long forms now on YouTube. Thank you, Minsu. If he wants to edit the interviews so I don't have to spend that time doing it, I'm much more willing to pay him to do it than do it myself. But it might be something that is worth looking into. But it is not something that I want to do more than the interview on at this point. And I'm going to say, in this point in my illustrious career, I'm past the point of wanting to go find the people to interview and editing the interview. I want somebody else to do that. I'm gonna.
I mean, there's with the interview, there's plenty of process before that, figuring out sort of what to talk about and such. Like real talk, putting together an interview like that can be like 20, 30 plus hours, depending on what it is.
It was a lot.
Yeah.
Like I had interviews that I had to spend 13 hours editing. And I know that people are going to say, that's insane. How can you spend 13 hours editing something that only turns out to be an hour and a half long?
Oh.
Well, early on, we had a lot to do to edit things because we had to get the audio tracks to match, which we couldn't do live at the time. We had to get out the background noises. We had to take care of all the weird.
I remember doing the outro like 15 times.
Yeah, there were times where the microphone I had was a Blue Yeti, so it picked up certain things a lot. Like it would pick up my breathing, like heavy.
I mean, you're kind of anal.
I had to edit it out.
Yeah.
I didn't want that in there.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, these days it's different. These days, we have a lot more experience. We've done this, a few hundred times now. The streaming landscape is a little different too. Technology has progressed a little bit better in that sense. So I think there's still a lot of very cool things we can do with AlbionTV and showcasing the community and such. And as you said, with the growth since then, I want to show this picture, by the way. This is from the Spotlight, the story of AlbionTV.
Oh no.
Where Will Berger went and told, a little bit of what we just talked about, but in a written form. But it has a bunch of the pictures. I'm not on that. I haven't shown my face yet on the internet, but In case you haven't seen the guys at Chosen, Nazori, Elfwood, Tazik, Robin Hooders, and Lupac. And then if you want pictures from some of the old crew that exists, you have to dig, but you will find it on Twitch and other areas. But I didn't want to miss out on that. And then sort of, I guess, either open up one or two more questions from the audience, or just transition a bit to the future, I guess. I don't know. Did we forget anything? Should we mention anything else?
Well, I'm going to mention something. I'm going to give a shout out to one of our biggest fans from back in the day. There was a viewer, Fun Stealer, who from the moment we started doing Albion TV, and that's before I started. It was from the moment that Evoke started doing Albion TV. He watched every day. He was here every single day, almost without fail, and he was our biggest supporter and our biggest critic. And we lost him during the beginning of COVID, and I miss him tons every day. It is an example of the way that a player or a viewer can really touch you in a way that you don't really get. You don't really understand until they're gone. And it was really cool to have a fan like him. And I don't know if we'll ever have another fan like him, but I do want to shout him out, as it's somebody that I know a lot of people in chat remember. And I hope that when Albion brings, if Albion brings, and I'm going to say when, because I do think it needs to happen, brings an arena mode to Albion, like um, one of those battle royal arenas, that we do get to call it the Fun Stealer Arena, in honor of him and the game modes that he created for us to all play as early participants in Albion Online. Great person, great player, great community member, and there are so many other great community members out there. You guys really make this awesome. You guys make this worth doing. You make this whole thing functional and possible, and we couldn't do it without you. We would not be here, certainly, for 10 years doing this without you guys. 8 years as the running this channel. So it's been awesome. It's been awesome.
Yeah, how can I follow that up? I don't. I think I'll just let it stand by itself. And then, I mean, what is left to do, I think, is look a little bit in the future. I mean, with the 8th-year anniversary coming to a close this year, and me hoping for another 8, I think we'll see not only Albion develop, but AlbionTV develop a bit more. I think we still want to try a bunch of different show types. We've more or less, I think, revamped Albion TV like 15 times over by now, in terms of
at least three times. 3 really serious workovers, I think. And I do see a 4th one in the process right now. It's a bit more of a, like, while you guys probably haven't seen anything outwardly change as to what we're doing as far as the shows that we've put out, a lot of things behind the scenes have changed in the last year, and the way that we've done things. Last year we had the great privilege of going to Berlin as a team and getting to meet all the people at Sandbox Interactive, and meet the
in
new
person. We had
yeah, like
talked
everybody
before
in
for
person. Like
quite a while, but
we
like
got to meet
actually
them
showing
all
up in
in
Berlin.
yeah.
I mean, getting
Like I
you
got to
over
meet
from the
Bogul in
States to
person.
Berlin is not too easy. Huh?
No,
Yeah.
it's not. And we had Bogul there. We had Tazik there. We had Lupac there. The only one we didn't get there from the 5 core people is Robin Hood RS, who the weekend before he was supposed to leave, lost his passport, and could not get a new passport in a week's time. Yes, Robin Hood RS lost his passport the week before a work trip to Berlin, Germany, to come hang out at the Sandbox Interactive Studio. Shout out to Robin Hood RS, who
That was a
now, of
huge bummer,
all of
though.
us, I give a shout out to Robin Hood. He went from a player who is to now he is the official, like, feedback specialist for Albion Online. What is he? The
Com-
guild.
Community ambassador, I think, is
Yeah, community ambassador, guild ambassador, community ambassador. whatever they call him, it's freaking awesome that he gets to do it. I think we put it the right title in the story there for him, but he's done so much and he really ran with it when given the opportunity. So shout out to him. Really happy that he has come so far and gotten to do so much. Shout out to Tazik for taking his time here on Albion TV and transitioning that into some really cool projects he's gotten to do in other parts of the gaming industry. Lupak as well. Like the stuff he's done as a Twitch DJ is kind of impressive, Bogle.
I mean,
Like,
also
what
as
are
an
you and
Albion
I
player.
doing? I mean, we're just hanging out. Like,
Yeah, I mean, Lupak would be like, wait, I play Albion too, man. But so I think a lot of these guys, shout out to Nazori too, who's been here forever. I'll forward to Melatras as well.
our newest members, Melatris, L Forward, and
Yeah,
Minsu.
There's plenty of stuff going on, and everybody's sort of grown into this a bit more these days, and it's really cool to see this come together. Sometimes a bit more loosely, sometimes a bit more structured, but that's okay on Twitch, I think. Sometimes hanging out is fun, and sometimes trying to actually sees through some program is also quite fun. What was you saying? I kind of lost track.
I was just shouting out different people who've gotten to work with us and different things. I think it's been a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to the next 10 years. Like, I think it's going to be a fun year this next year. We know some of the stuff that's going on in the next year. Really looking forward to it.
You do?
We're going to try to. Yeah, I do.
For example?
I'm really looking forward to going to Berlin again in early March, which is, I don't know if you guys have been paying attention to like how every 4 months we get a new update, but we might try to go to Berlin for the next update and be there live in studio when they release it, so that when we do like an event like this, we're doing it live from the studio for you guys. And I'm really looking forward to that opportunity. And I think that's going to be a special time. It's going to be cold as hell, and I'm going to have to stand outside in the freezing cold in Berlin waiting for noodles, but I'm going to do it. Mr. Lees, I'm coming. Very excited for that. We're going to have a lot of fun in the next year. What else do we have to look forward to, Bogul? I know you're working on a little side project. Do you want to talk about that, or you just want to?
No, that's under wraps still.
Okay, under wraps still. Still a project under wraps. We're going to have new art one day. A funny story for all of you guys. You guys want to hear a funny story from Albion TV? In February, we put out a contract for art. For new overlays for our Twitch stream. I have not seen new art yet.
When was that? In February?
Yeah.
2025?
February, March, in that area.
I'm
hearing that this is a normal amount of waiting.
No, I don't think so. I don't know. Anyways, there's plenty of things to improve still. When you have this kind of big project, there's always things you want to do and change and do whatnot, and then that applies to Albion too, right? We've seen so many things that for Albion and for Albion TV, we're like, if this only had another 1,000 man hours put into it, it would be kind of cool. But there's but the art, yeah. Yo, by the way,
there's some
I
really
kinda,
cool things I'm looking forward to with that art overlay.
I want some cool emojis, like Twitch emojis soon. We still
that's
have
something we should look into, is new emojis for our viewers, because we've had the same ones for, I want to say 2018. It's been a while. The F is pretty good. I love the F, but we need new ones, and I think it's about time. I'll look into that in the relatively new thing. I'm gonna open up this up to audience participation a little bit. We've been here a little bit extra, but it's been fun. If you guys want to ask some questions, I'll answer a few questions. And in the meantime, Bogle, could you pull a raffle? so that some of these guys could earn some premium. I'm thinking like pull 2 or 3 of them. We didn't have a special skin to give away. I didn't tell them what my favorite skin was. So
I've
my
just
favorite thing is more premium.
let's do it this way. Put something in Twitch chat. I've reset the entries. Put something in Twitch chat right now. And ideally something that either is a question or a comment or something you would like to see for Albion TV or something that you would maybe like to see differently or anything, maybe related to history. Anything in the next minute or two. And then I will draw, let me look at the budget, at least 2, maybe 3, maybe 5 7-day premium codes.
Thank you, Ricky Bobby.
How do you plan war reports?
Oh. So I'll go to the earliest days and give a little bit of history how they have evolved. Earliest war reports were that we would look at the map and we would watch where different guilds took territories, and I would show recordings of the different 5v5 matches that led to the changes on the map. As it evolved to ZVZs, we started being able to follow what areas were going to be conquested the next day. Like, you'd have the attack scheduled for the next day, and we could follow that pretty easy. Now it's a little different in that we have a bunch of shot callers that we have made a list of, and we go through each name every day and try to find out if they're online. And if they're online, we mark them down that we'll go back to them, and we keep looking over and over for them getting fights. And when we get into fights, we try to have one person on them to just make sure that, they're casting it. And then another person will look around for more content. Or if we find a second fight, they'll follow the second fight so we can give you guys a perspective on multiple pieces of content so that you know that there are more fights going on in the world than just one at a time. Because I believe that showing that there is a lively world in Albion Online in the Outlands really does encourage more people to get involved in the Outlands. Some crazy stories that we need to know about. Okay, let me think of a good one that is tellable. Or
I mean,
I'm just going to point you guys to a Google search, okay? I want you to Google Daddy Varian.
Daddy Varian. Okay.
Yep.
And then probably with Albion.
With Albion Online.
Uh-huh.
And if you have ever seen anything weirder than that, let me know. Hey, Rook won. Congrats.
That's number 1. Number 2 is... Wait, Minso. Can Minso win? Minso AO?
No.
No?
Wait, actually, no, I think, no, actually, Minsu, do you get premium from me? If the answer is I don't give you premium already, then you can get this one and we'll pull another one for somebody else.
He said I'm good.
Yeah,
let
just pull another
others.
one. Just pull another one and
Wow.
give him that one.
All right.
I'm gonna get him premium next month. I don't think I get him there.
Nice. Okay. Shalasa, you've won before as well. Congratulations. And then let's pick 1 or 2 more questions and then draw some more later. There's a few suggestions about like what to change on the game. And I mean, I guess you've noticed by now, but like some of the stuff we do is focused and large on the Twitch content, telling stories, doing like almost like not out of game content, but news updates and telling stories. And game design and like specific game changes and feedback is something we keep an eye on and like regularly write down. And again, shout out to Robin, who is in like 100 guild discords or something, has his own channel. And if you want to get Robin in your channel for feedback, get in touch with him. But I don't think we have the power to change the game chosen. I think we
I
have
mean,
changed the game through
we've
talking
changed
quite
the
a
game
lot.
enough. So, like, I no longer am getting involved in that. Like, there was a time where
Mm.
there was a much smaller studio,
Hmm.
and there was much more reason for me to do more than what I'm doing now. Now, all I have to do is run Albion TV, and I don't have to do anything else, and I don't feel compelled to do anything. Not that I even needed to do it then, but I felt compelled to because, again, I feel it was my like duty to save Albion Online. Whether or not I did, up for debate. Probably most people would say no. It was fine without you, but thanks for showing up. But yeah, I like
Uh,
Bogle kind of cut me off earlier. I at one point when we were doing our podcast,
mm.
I literally turned to my wife and said, "Well, I screamed into the other room, honey, I'm quitting my job and I'm going to go save Albion Online." And she turned to me and said, "That's nice, honey," from the other room. So, you know, we made a commitment early on to this game and this community and making sure that it would be here for the long haul. And when I thought that it needed me to be involved in saying what should be done next, I was very vocal to the people who would listen. I haven't felt I needed to be that way in quite some time because I have such uh, confidence and conviction in the people who work there that I think they're going to figure it out. Even when they don't get it right the first time, like they get something wrong and they have to go back to it, they do that right away and they actively work with the players in a way that they didn't do in the past, and I'm happy with that. And this is good. That's what I want to see, right? So I don't feel like I need to get involved anymore because they're doing the things that I wanted them to do from a gaming studio perspective, right? Like I wanted them to talk to the players and get information on what they wanted and change the game to be more like what they needed and to take the concerns of players into account when they would make changes in the game. And they're doing that now. And not that they didn't then, but they're doing it better now. They
Mm.
have more people to do it and they're at a faster rate of return. Um, Somebody asked what I want to see for Albion TV in the future. Two things. I want us to have a not have to take down the stream when we change shows. I want to have an always on stream so that when we change shows, it's like you're just watching television and it goes from commercial to show to commercial to show to commercial to show. And you don't ever have any downtime in between during the hours that we're live. Second, I would like more interaction with the devs. We've gotten some really good interaction with them recently. Having Quoki on was absolutely fantastic. One of the most fun things we've gotten to do. The Q&A that we did with Graymo and Retroman was a ton of fun. I want to do that again. I want to have Graymo on to just talk to him about gaming and life. The interviews we got to do for the 5th anniversary, where we had that roundtable with Robin Henkes and David Zaltz, that was a ton of fun. I'd like to bring more people in like that, more developers. We had Lucrative on when we were in studio last November. That was a ton of fun. Doing things like that is what I'd like to do more of on AOTV, is having more time with the developers and getting them in front of you guys so you see that they're people who play video games and make video games, not just the thing that churns out your content. To me, that's really important.
I want that and more interviews. I,
You've always been on me about those
uh,
interviews. You really like those.
I,
I
I, I recognize the problems with trying to make that happen, but I think not only talking to the developers on the official channel, I mean, that's part of the priority, of course, but showcasing the community that way is, you know, pretty unique and can be extremely interesting. Like, I really kind of want to know how some certain guilds run their day-to-day business, or how some certain power struggle came to be. That's one of the coolest things I want to see. But you know,
Hey, Bogle, can you not whisper, but can you say something as the Albion Online account so that these guys can whisper you?
hi. If you won the draw, you can whisper me. Don't whisper me if you didn't win. I got these like
People do that a lot. You get a
yeah.
lot of those. So, Flaming Dusk, we do the interviews with the streamer spotlights, and they're very easy to do with the streamers because they're on Twitch and they don't want to lose their ability to be on Twitch, so they don't generally do crazy things when they're on. And there's something about a live interview on Twitch that doesn't have to be perfect, right? Like it can be off. You can have a little bit of miscommunication. It can just feel like a normal conversation back and forth and have mistakes. But when you have a recording, it has to be a little bit more professional, really. And so I don't mind doing ones where we can just go off the cuff and have a conversation, even if they don't come out great, because it's Twitch. But when I do a recording, I want them to come out great. And that requires so much effort on editing. And we have to do anything that we do with a guild leader, it has to be pre recorded. I don't know if you've met these guys, but I once had Derek on.
Mhm.
Oh,
I mean, you can kind of say like don't swear, don't use explicit words, don't say stuff that's bannable. We can't show that. But these guys will do it anyways, right? And then you're like, all right, I gotta edit this
well,
out, and then
there's my channel for 3 days.
yeah, you don't want that to happen.
I got a short vacation.
Yeah.
And you only get so many of those before they just don't let you back on. And since this is what I do,
Kind of important. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Man, yeah. It's been a while. I think we're doing all right. I think there's cool stuff to come. I think this is pretty unique as a thing for the community, and I think also by the community in large.
Yeah, it's definitely a community-driven show in a lot of
Yeah.
ways. Without them and their interaction, we wouldn't have been able to do this. So much of what we did was community-driven. Like Robin Hood RS came from the community. Tazik came from the community. Like you and I came from the community. Lupac, I think, was brought in as a streamer early on, and then I don't know exactly what
I mean, he
Lupac
turned very
situation.
community. Yeah.
Yeah, but he's now part of the community.
Yeah.
But L Forward came from the community. Melitris came from the community. Uh, Nazori came from the community. Everybody that works here was a community member first that started working with us because they really put in a lot of effort into it. Minsu, part of the community. Actually, a level 9 PV, Crystal League championship player over there. The guy went wild in 5v5s. Definitely part of the community. Um, it's what makes this thing that we do so natural and real is that you're not dealing with people that were chosen by Sandbox Interactive. You're dealing with people that were chosen by the community to work with the community. Like they let me pick everybody who works here. Besides Lupac, they gave me Lupac. Um,
He's all right. He's all right.
No, we kept well, let's just say he's the only one we, from the beginning who's still here. So that says a lot about him. He's stuck around through all the tough parts. He's definitely a part of what we do here and very valued member. So it's, but they let us pick our team and what we do and what we've built. And we've gone through the people in the community who really showed interest and did something that was more. One of the things I should say is that everything that we've gotten to do here on Albion TV, whether it was the Daily Show, the War Reports, the faction warfare shows, the interviews, are all things that we did first. And then after we did them and showed that they were good pieces of content, did we then get like budget to do them? Everything we've done was something we said, here's a thing that we can do. We're going to show you that we can do it and that it has value. And then we were able to get the budget to continue doing that. And that's something I think you guys, if you're content creators out there and you're people who are trying to get yourself into the gaming industry or another industry that is a creative industry, just do it. Do the work. Make the stuff that you want to sell first and then try to get it out there. If you make something, what is it, Field of Dreams, if you build it, they will come. They can't buy it if they don't see it, is the way I would say it. Like, they might not necessarily come if you build it, but they certainly won't if you don't. If you just talk about it and what you'd like to do, you won't ever get there to doing it. Go out there and do it, and then try to make it work.
Hmm. I guess the only thing I have to add to this is send a DM if you want to do something. Right? So
Yeah, yeah.
there's the option, right, to expand on all of this with more community always. Right? So if there is something cool that you're like, yo, we have to show this, we have to do this, this is absolutely amazing, get in touch. And then we'll see what we can show, what we can do. And maybe you or we or it will end up in Albion TV at least, or more. So there's always cool projects, always cool stuff going on in Albion. It's kind of cool.
Absolutely. And I think that this is time for us to end it, Bogle. We've been here an extra long time. It did
That's all
a
right.
more than
We
an
were
hour.
talking about us shows.
Yeah, I mean, it's our favorite topic, right?
Right?
I hope you guys really enjoyed this. It was a lot of fun to do. Thank you to SBI for not only giving us this opportunity to do this amazing job and for making this amazing game, but also today giving us the opportunity to talk about this. It was so much fun, and it's been a incredible a 10-year experience for me, from just being part of the community to getting to do what I do now. And I really look forward to another 10 years of this. It's been the highlight of my working life. And I've gotten to do some incredibly fun things in my life for work, but this is by far the best. And thank you guys, community. Thank you, Bogle, for whom, if it wasn't for you, I absolutely would not be doing this
Same,
ever. Not
same,
just today,
same.
ever. So thank you so much. And guys, I will see you again soon.
Bye. See you tomorrow.